Now, I am not actually financially broke. You got clickbaited, little bro. Instead, I am mentally broke. I choose to believe that I don't have enough money. And that's not because, I'm going to focus better at home and work better at home instead of like moving out. I would be able to focus so much better if I could move out and get my own place. The reason I choose to believe I don't have enough money and the reason I choose to stay at home is simply just for my beliefs. This video is a video about beliefs. Now, don't click off because you're like, oh, I don't have that many limiting beliefs, and the ones I do have, they probably aren't big constraints. That in itself, you believing your limiting beliefs aren't a huge constraint, and you thinking that you just need traffic or you just need clarity on how to sell. You thinking that way is in and of itself a limiting belief, and in this video, I am going to introduce you to the red man and how the red man is completely controlling your head, completely controlling your beliefs. And essentially, how I am, it sounds so bad, but how I'm abusing the red man, my red man, to essentially be able to put myself through unlimited pain without the pain actually feeling bad. And as a result of that, I can work so fucking much, bro. And it is ridiculous. It's probably a pretty complicated little hook I've done on you there. But trust me, man, this video, if you pay attention to it, it has the potential to completely and utterly change your life. Because you probably know, if you could lock in, if you could literally see every limiting belief you had and just snap, shut up, and you could just snap, get rid of that limiting belief, then by doing that, you would just go whoop. And that's exactly what I've done in my own life. That's how I'm at 25k per month at 17 years old. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the red man. What is the red man? Who is the red man? What is a red man? What is your red... What's the red man now? The red man is basically the personification of resistance, of the limiting beliefs and bad thoughts in your own brain. So, for example, when you're supposed to be doing the work, but you're procrastinating, watching some bullshit YouTube, my fucking retention just drops as soon as I say that. I mean, that'd be good if you went and clicked off and did the work now. But anyway, basically, the red man is the personification of your procrastination, your limiting beliefs, the doubt, the anxiety, the negative emotions, whenever you go and watch porn or eat bad junk food or skip the gym or anything. I mean, you're probably above that now, but all of that is the red man's doing. The red man is the personification of that. Now, that doesn't really explain it anymore. The best way to sort of explain who the red man is, because it's so valuable once you can understand all this, is the angel and devil on the shoulders, okay? And it goes way deeper than this. Don't just click off because it's it's just a devil. It goes way deeper than that. But the red man, you can see it as sort of similar to the devil on your shoulder, okay? In the sense that it's always whispering poison into your ear, trying to get you to go and do the bad thing. Whereas there's also the angel side of you on your other shoulder, which is more so trying to tell you to go and do the good thing to progress in your goals and everything like that. It goes way deeper than that, but that's a good way to sort of get a base understanding of it. Sorry, bro, I've just got to interject Sam quickly right now. I help self-improvement creators, probably exactly like you, to make their first $2,000 per month ASAP. My average client makes $3,700 in the first 60 days of working with me. However, I am not selling you anything. I am not pitching you anything whatsoever here. My methodology to get you, and this is basically how my clients get such fucking crazy results. Guys like you, who are literally now making 2k per month, dropping out. We're all going to be moving in together in fucking Albania, bro, this summer. It's going to be sick. The way I get such fucking crazy results for my boys is we essentially stop hoping that YouTube is just going to gift you fucking sales and just gift you traffic all of a sudden. Because you probably know with YouTube, you can't put more effort in and then just get more traffic straight out. It don't really work like that, And so essentially what we do is we implement our high leverage linear traffic systems, and we basically make it so you can put more work in and linearly get more traffic out. And so that dream of making 2k per month, dropping out, living a fucking sick life, it's now within your hands. You can put more work in and you can get that 2k per month. And it's so, you don't have to worry about the model or am I going to get views or shit. It doesn't work like that. Just fucking straight up linear. If you are interested to learn this methodology, like I said, I am not pitching you anything here because you can learn everything, all the secrets, for completely free in my free course, and that's in my school community. There's a link for that below. It's called the $1,000 Protocol. It will change your life. It already has for so many other guys. I really, really recommend you go and click that link now. I completely understand if you don't want to do that just yet. But I just thought to let you know that you can get my entire course for completely free in the description. It's down there, bro. I highly recommend you go click that. But anyway, back over to actual Sam now, because to fully understand who the red man actually is and all the more details and finer, not scientific, but more deeper philosophical points about the red man, we first need to define who you actually are. Now, throughout this video, there's going to be two definitions of the word you. There's going to be you as in like the whole you, which includes you doing the work and also you not doing the work. When you're doing good things and bad things, like the entirety of you and like your mind, the meta mind, the entire thing, your subconscious and subconscious, like all of it. That's one definition of you, and that you includes both the angel and the devil. Okay. Now the other definition of you is essentially like the truer, authentic you, which is almost just like just the angel, if that makes sense. And then that's the side of you which, it's the real you. Because like you think about it, it's like when you have an urge to go and relapse on some addiction or not do the work, it's not actually the real authentic you. It's just kind of like the bad side of you, like the old version of you that's kind of like pulling you down in a way. And it's kind of, but then that's also part of you as a whole. So what I'm getting at is there's obviously meta you, entire you, which is both the angel and the devil. Then there's like authentic you, which is almost like just the angel, if that makes sense, like the core, deeper, true, authentic you. And basically, the way you can imagine it is like the red man is just the equal and opposite, like, dual pole to the real authentic you, if that makes sense. And so what I'm getting is kind of like man and woman in a way. How with humans, it's like you've got a man and a woman. It's like they are. I mean, if you're really fucking red pilled, then you might not agree with this, but it's like they're equal and opposite. Okay, a man cannot survive without a woman cannot survive without a man. As in like the whole species. We need each other to be able to like for our genes to survive, if that makes sense. And so although we have different roles, we are still equal in value solely due to the fact that we need each other to survive, if that makes sense. And it's like, yeah, sure, like if you want to believe that like men go out there and like we do 99% of the work and women are just like there because to just sort of women are evil and shit, you can believe that for this video. I'm not going to go into that and try and argue with that, but you can hopefully accept that we need one another to survive. And so in a way we are equal and opposite. It's like duals, poles and everything like that, like the North Pole and the South Pole, or it's like electrical currents. You got the positive and negative current. It's like a theme throughout all of reality. That generally things are like equal and opposite. And if you really want to go deep into this, like the equal and opposite thing, it relates back to the whole like every action has an equal and opposite reaction, if that makes sense. Like the little fucking thing I've got my what do you call it, like laptop and feet on, like the little like it's not a footstool, it's more, I don't even know what you'd call it, like a mini little like fucking garden furniture table. If I was to go and like push my feet away with this, then like I'm gonna slightly push my chair back as well. Do you understand that? So my action of pushing that back has an equal and opposite reaction of me pushing myself back. But now the footstool is gonna move further than the chair is because the footstool has less like weight to it, if that makes sense, than the chair. So that it's you hopefully you can understand that. It's like imagine you're in space, and there's like another person in front of you, you're floating in space, in fucking spacesuits, there's another person in front of you, and you push off each other. Now, if you push them away, imagine in space, where it's like a vacuum and shit, then what's going to happen there is they're not going to start moving away from you and you're going to stay still. You're going to start moving away from each other equally and oppositely. Do you understand that? That's kind of where the whole poles, duals, fucking shit kind of comes from. It's just equal and opposite. Like man and woman. And so the red man is kind of like the equal and opposite version of like authentic you. It's like the opposite of the angel, the angel and the devil. It's kind of like equal and opposite in that sense. Now, here's the thing. It's like you probably like see. I think a lot of people kind of have this perspective, and I want to open you up to a new perspective. And that's like people see it's like their true like angel self. It's like the truest, authentic, the real self that's like good, and it's inherently like more of the main character, if that makes sense, and it's inherently more important. Whereas the bad side of you is just kind of the old side that you kind of want to discard and throw away, and you just want to forget about that and get rid of it. That's how a lot of people kind of see it, and you probably see, it kind of like that too. So I've just got to check the camera's still recording. Oh fuck, it's getting hot in the sun, bro. I think it'll be fine, honestly. And so as I was saying, is that a lot of people see the red man and the angel as like the angel is way more important than like the resistance side of you. But the way I prefer to see it is they're equal and opposite. Okay, and it's like they're equal and they've got both roles, and it's almost like there's the authentic you, and you live in the perspective of the authentic you. But then there's also the red man, which is just another version of you, and it's like you can imagine like another in another universe maybe there's like the red man version of you who's working really hard on his goals to try and fucking get you to stop fucking being making progress. If you understand that, it's not like authentic you is like the truest, realest you, and that's it. And the red man's just this like, or the resistance and the word side of you is just kind of like the fucking like, fucked up side you want to discard that's unimportant. It's like they're both just as important as one another because they need each other to survive and exist because they're equal and opposite, like the, man and woman in a way. And that's kind of the way I see the red man, or like the resistance and everything, is like, it's just a natural force of you progressing to your goals. It's going to increase in strength as you do because it's equal and opposite. And we're going to get to increasing in strength and all this stuff very, very soon because there's a very easy way you can, what I call starve your red man and basically like fuck him up and so you can just work as hard as you want, and that's what we're going to get to. Yeah, but it's kind of like the woman in the red dress. If you've heard that analogy, it comes from like the Matrix. I think it comes from the Matrix. I remember the Matrix might have taken it from somewhere. I don't know. Essentially, as you increase in your status and you increase in your progress, your external progress, the internal challenges are going to become harder. Like the temptations are going to become harder. Like as you make more and more money, the woman in the red dress, which is kind of like the personification of like, this pretty woman who's like trying to seduce you, she will get prettier and prettier. She'll try and make you cheat on your goals or cheat on your girlfriend or shit like that. And she will get prettier as you make more external progress. And that's kind of just a personification, similar to the red man, of the internal resistance. Because again, you think about progress and everything, and like stories and like story arcs and all this shit, and it's like you got the external journey of a character, and you think about it in your life because stories are just kind of like they're very analogous to our real lives. And you think about a story, and it's like the characters, got the external journey of Luke going and fucking, taking down the Death Star and shit. But then there's also the deeper, truer internal story. Not necessarily true, but the deeper internal story. Which is kind of like it's just it kind of is the more truer story that we relate in more. And so it's not actually about like Luke going and destroying the Death Star. It's about Luke becoming the Jedi who can go and destroy the Death Star and, kill Darth Vader and all this shit. And so, basically it's like you can kind of imagine it like that as in your journey, in your progress. It's like, it's not necessarily about achieving external progress, it's becoming the person who can, and it's also becoming the person who can go and then deal with the woman in the red dress and the red man, which will become a lot stronger. Imagine the woman in the red dress and the red man in a little relationship there. That would be cute, wouldn't it? I've kind of created a bit of a duality there. But where am I going with this? Basically, what I'm coming at is the red man is equal and opposite to you. It's not like he's some like opposite character from some opposite world, or I mean, it kind of is, but it's not like he's less important is what I'm getting at. You need to understand that out there in some other universe, there might be some like, red man version of you watching some video on how to watch porn or some shit like that, It's not actually like that, because it's like, in the sense that you are physical, the red man is mental. Equal and opposite in that way. You are for good, and the red man is for bad. In the sense that, and the reason I'm like going like good and bad is because, like I said, like they're just equal and opposite. Like a man isn't good and a woman isn't bad. They're just like equal and opposite. You get what I'm getting at with that? And so like technically you are for good, but it's only from our perspective of good, because for the red man, from his perspective, he is for good, and you are for bad. If you see that, good and bad, like they're not inherent things, they're only things in perspective from one another. Like if murder was just a normal thing every day and it's just fine, it wouldn't be a bad thing. Like things aren't just inherently bad, they're only good and bad in relation to one another. Like hopefully you can see that they're like concepts we've come up with. Like, imagine there was a universe and the only thing in that universe was like a fucking clump of rock. Would that clump of rock be good or bad? Well, it's not, because there's nothing to compare it to. Good and bad are only relative. And so basically what I'm getting at is the red man. For him, he is for good, and then you are for bad. And that's what, that's kind of backing up my point of it, you being equal and opposite, and no one being more important than the other person. Because essentially it's just very valuable to see it like that, because then you kind of realize like, shit, it's not like I'm, because what happens is if you see yourself as more important, then you start to see yourself as like very righteous, and like, you're kind of like destined for success in a way, and that's going down a whole nother rabbit hole. But if you kind of feel like the red man, like the bad side of you, is very much like less important, and like you're the true side and you're going to come to, success and everything, it's good to believe that you will succeed. But I think it's bad to kind of, I think there's pros and cons to it, because I'm like very fucking certain that I'm gonna reform the education system and like achieve my wildest fucking dreams, bro. But at the same time, like being certain of the success and like getting comfortable in that, like, oh, I'm certain we're gonna achieve it in the future, you can get comfortable in the fact that you haven't achieved your goals yet because you start to treat it like a thing for the future. And so if you are like, certain that you're definitely going to achieve your long-term goals, then you start to kind of believe that you're righteous. And like, you know what the word righteous means. I don't have to explain that anymore. Like, you're inevitably going to achieve it because like you're the chosen one or shit like that. Like a lot of us, it is very this is the thing. There's like two sides to it. There's non-binary thinking and everything. Like you don't have to be polarized to one side, because being certain you can achieve your goals and having that main character energy is kind of like that's needed to start the feedback loop of then acting like the main character to then become the main character and actually achieve your goals. But on the other hand, if you take it in the wrong way and you're like, oh, I'm the main character and so regardless I'm going to succeed, then you can get comfortable not achieving your goals right now because you start to treat it like it's a thing for the future. Like my goals are a future thing, And I think this happens a lot with like, this is interesting. The red man might be abusing you with like YouTube and everything. If you're doing like YouTube or Instagram content and all of this stuff, it's like because it takes so long to succeed, you can get comfortable with the fact that you are weirdly fucked up comfortable with the fact that you aren't succeeding, simply just because it's like you see success as like a long-term future thing for future you, and then because you don't see it as relevant to like, or you don't see it as possible to achieve success soon, you get comfortable not achieving it. And then it's just kind of like weird and fucked up because then you don't work as hard as you could because you feel like, and you're comfortable with not achieving it. You're comfortable with never going to be able to achieve it. It's like sometimes on sales calls and stuff, like we pitch people the price, and it's like when we say that you're expecting people to hear the price and they'll be uncomfortable because it's a high price and it's expensive and everything. When I'm like selling my program and stuff, or my sales rep closer is selling it, we notice that people like will say the price and then their energy just changes and they're like comfortable. And it's like, what? Okay, so like, you've got like a lot of money that isn't money. And they're like, oh no, like I don't have that money. And they're comfortable with not affording it because they now know that they're not going to have to take action on basically doing something that's going to help them to achieve their goals. Because they've kind of like let their identity kind of become like of someone who doesn't achieve their goals now, but then achieves their goals later. And weirdly enough, that's kind of like the red man doing that. Like the red man, and we're gonna get to this soon, but the red man kind of uses his like pain points, we can call them, and his like basically his energy levels, and we're gonna get into what pain points and energy levels and all this stuff is. I just want to say this now, so I don't forget to say it later. He basically uses his pain point and energy levels to kind of convince you that you are more important than him, that you are righteous, and if you let him do that and you let him basically allow you to be comfortable in not achieving your goals, and YouTube's gonna blow up one day, so I'm not gonna like do anything that can help me achieve it like soon. I'm not gonna like try and make $1,000 next week as well. I'm I'm inevitably gonna succeed anyway. There's no point. Like he will convince you of shit like that, and then obviously that stops you from succeeding and achieving your like angel goals and everything. But anyway, that's sort of getting ahead of myself. So basically, who the red man is, he's equal and opposite to you. He's not more or less important than you. He's not good or bad. He's just the opposite version of you. He is mental and you're kind of physical. Though it can be beneficial to imagine him as physical because then it sort of puts you on level playing grounds. But anyway, I'm also getting ahead of yourself. Now, this is the thing, like, basically, you can imagine that the red man's like the resistance of you. Like the opposite version, the resistance type of you. Now, the thing is, I'm going to have to go on to like another point here. But trust me, I'm going to weave this point back in. I've just got to I do this so much. It's like I have to make a point which seems so fucking unrelated and irrelevant because I've then got to build up that little point to then weave it in with the whole main point. It's like starting an alternate plot line in a way. Basically, where do I start explaining this from? Basically, the point is that generally, in the wild, as cavemen, loss is much more exponential than gain. Now, pretty much what that means is, let's say you're a caveman. Okay, you're a little caveman, and there's, you're with your caveman tribe, and there's a forest over there. There's a forest over there. And in that forest, there's plenty of berries. There's plenty of, easy food which you can get, okay? However, you are not sure if there is a bear in that forest or not. Basically, it's like there's a reward in that forest. However, you don't know if there's danger in the forest or not. Okay. Now, evolutionary, how natural selection works. Basically, the tribes and the people who are more likely to survive will then, and are more adapted to the environment, they will survive more and reproduce more. And so generally, and then the ones who don't, they die more. And so generally, over time, like traits which are good for survival will become way more common because of the basically the humans with those traits, and this goes for any animal as well. The humans with those traits will basically breed more, and there'll be more of them, and the ones who don't have that traits will die more, and there'll be less of them. And so basically, it's naturally evolved into us through natural selection. To basically like psychologically, not psychologically, but like intrinsically, subconsciously understand that loss is more exponential than gain. And so coming back to that forest analogy, essentially what I'm guessing is if you go in the forest and there isn't danger and you get the berries, well, that's cool. You're fed for like a couple of days, and maybe that's equivalent to like, adding like 10% of a life of a child, if that makes sense. Which that'll be like, why the fuck you saying that? It'll become relevant in a second. But you can imagine that getting the berries, a couple of days of food, that's equivalent to like 10% of a life of a child in a way. Like, growing up a new child, to like adding a life to the tribe, adding like a point to the tribe. Whereas if there's a bear in there, then that bear would probably take like 5 lives of the tribe away, And so it's kind of like the gain is 0.1, but the loss, if there is a bear, would be 5. And so that's what I'm getting at. Loss is generally way more sudden and just exponential than gain is. Because think about in the wild, like, where can you suddenly just gain enough food that's going to have like enough food to basically like satiate 5 human beings for life? It doesn't exist. You can find food sources, but you can only like consume them consistently over time. It's never like exponential and suddenly your tribe just fucking doubles in size just overnight. However, the tribe can half in size overnight if there's a bear attack in the middle of the night. And so what I'm getting at is loss is generally way more exponential than gain is in the wild, and that is sort of still true to this day, although I haven't really looked into that. Now with keeping that in mind and keeping natural selection in mind, essentially pain, which is kind of like our perception of loss, pain is way more motivating than gain, okay? And the way you can see this is, let's say you've got $1,000 in your bank account right now, all right? And let's say that, I don't know, if you don't run I don't know if you how much you run, but let's say if you don't run a 22-minute 5K, which might be quite hard for you, and keeping my middle distance running is fucking painful as fuck, bro. If you don't run a 22-minute 5K, then you won't get $1,000. If you run a 5-minute 5K, you'll get $1,000. Now, let's say, there's that. Now, let's say there's another test where if you don't run a 22-minute 5K, we're going to take your $1,000 away. Where are you more likely to run faster and really fucking go for it? It's for the potential of losing your $1,000. The example they always give in business is if you got a sales rep, okay, and you tell him, if you make $10,000 this month for my company, I'll give you a Ferrari as a bonus. Or you give him the Ferrari and then tell him, if you don't make $10,000 this month, I'll take the Ferrari away. He's more likely to make the $10,000 if you give him the Ferrari up front and then threaten to take it away due to loss versus gain, okay? That becomes very relevant because basically with the angel you and the red man you, okay, essentially they are very, very motivated by pain and by loss, okay? And the way you can imagine this is like pain is almost like food, all right? And so like, there's the whole thing of like, there's potential gain. It's like you'll be motivated, maybe you have a lot of inspiration and you're like, man, it's going to be so awesome when I can like drop out and live with freedom and like I want to achieve this goal, and I want to go do this cool like dad law thing and travel to this country, or, you might have things like that where it's like you feel like inspired to. It's like positive light energy that pulls you. But the thing is like, how much action do you really take based off that? Is a lot of the time when you like envision your goals and you've got that like positive motivation, a lot of it is just kind of like mental masturbation in a way. And I used to do this so much, bro. It's like I remember it was about a year ago when I just like dropped out of school. It's probably about 13 months ago, even just before I was dropping out. I had like exam leave and still at school. I had like way less school basically. I was only going in for exams and shit. I remember every morning I'd wake up at like 9 a.m. just after all my family left, so I'd be home alone, so it's like peace and quiet and everything. And essentially I would like play my music and everything, and I'd get a coffee and I'd just sit down with like some fruit in the morning. I'd like eat fruit in the morning at my desk, and I just like play my music and I just like think about the future and envision my dreams and everything and like journal a ton. And the thing is, like, that was nice to do and it was fun to do. However, I really didn't take much action because I was seeing it as like this future thing. However, in cases where it's kind of like, well, I need like money soon and like pretty it's pretty dire. I need money to go and travel or get this thing or whatever, or it's like I'm gonna go broke. then in cases like that, I lock in way, way harder. You know, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Like, sure, the positive emotions can give you a little bit of like, you know, food, a little bit of nutrition, a little bit of motivation to go and take action. But in general, it's like 90% pain. Because like I said, the berries versus the bear. So the bear's way more motivation than the berries, bro. And so we can basically simplify that. Because technically, like, the angel you and the red man you, they're both, like, fed and motivated by, like, the thought of gain. But that's, like, nothing in comparison to the thought of loss. And so we're going to simplify it for this video and only talk about the loss. Because the gain is so, like, small and so irrelevant. It's not the needle mover whatsoever to try and, like, manipulate the gain. Instead, it's way more, like, outsized, bro, to fucking try and, you know, asymmetric, as Mr. Charlie Morgan would say. It's way more asymmetric, you know, high leverage to essentially manipulate the loss. And that's what we're going to be getting to. So the way you can imagine it is like basically pain, the thought of loss is like food. You know, it's food for Angel You and it's also food for the Red Man You, okay? And this is going to link back to why I'm still like living with my family and everything very, very soon. We're going to get into that. But essentially, like, what happens is you have like your average baseline in a way. As in like your average, you know, your average sort of like point for where you currently are. You know how it's kind of like, you know, maybe a year ago, your baseline was lower than where you are now. Like maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when you weren't on self-improvement or anything, then your baseline was way lower. You got on self-improvement, your baseline gets higher. You know, you understand the concept of a baseline, don't you? It's like your average, you know, your average point of progress, your average, you know, quantifiable amount of progress, your average, you know, just how much action you've taken away. And that baseline is kind of like the average. And at the baseline, the red man and the angel side of you, neither of you are experiencing any pain. Now, you're not experiencing any pleasure, okay? But you're also not experiencing any pain. That's kind of like the average. Now, the thing is, you probably know that, like, you're not just constantly at your average. You're not just, like, constantly 80% consistent. You're, like, 100% consistent and then, like, 60% consistent. And then 100% and then, you know, it's like you kind of, like, you know, bounce between the two. And basically, the reason this happens is because when you are above your baseline, and I'd appreciate Hugo if you could put a little screenshot of the graph I drew out for this in another video. When you are above your baseline, okay, essentially what happens is you know, you're doing good, you're making abnormal progress, which basically gives the red man more pain. Because you're going through pleasure, the red man's going through more pain. And so let's say you're at your baseline and then you go whoop, you know, you go up, okay? And you know, you go up on one of those waves. That's basically you taking action and making progress, all right? Then what happens is you get, you know, you start going up, but then as you go further and further up, what happens is the red man essentially gets fed. He gets energy. He gets fed. He experiences pain and he gets fed. You know, he gets that motivation. And that's, you know, he sort of gets pain points in the way you can imagine it. And the thing is, as you go further up, you move further away from like the below the baseline, because below the baseline is when you feel pain, if that makes sense. You know, when you've been a bitch for ages and you're below the baseline, and then that sort of gives you pain and that motivates you to take action again, you're nowhere near that point. You're way above it and you're feeling great. And what happens is you know, you're feeling great, so you're being fed less pain, and then the red man is being fed more pain. And guess what it is? He spends those pain points on essentially being stronger and having more control over you. And then what happens is you start to get up, and then you sort of like the progress starts to slow down a little bit. It starts to like taper out a little bit. And that's essentially the red man using his pain points 99% of the time to make you feel good emotions about your progress. You know, you take a load of action, you feel good about it, okay? That is essentially the red man giving you those good emotions. Because remember, good emotions give you very, very little pain. You know, they give you very little pain, okay? Or, yeah, they give you very little food, if that makes sense. Pain gives you way more food. And so he's giving you these good emotions, but the thing is, the good emotions, the pleasure, it makes you complacent. It makes you feel less pain, and so you actually get less, you know, you get less, you know, food, basically. So you become weaker because you're confident with what you've already done. You're becoming complacent. You know, you're becoming happy with the work you've done. But then the red man's in tons of pain, and so he's working really hard. And then you peak out at the sort of top, and then you start coming down because the red man's still stronger than you. And as you're coming down, keep in mind, you're still above your baseline, okay? And so the red man's still being fed more than you, but you're going straight down. Despite, you know, the red man's getting more food than you, you're getting less than him, and you're coming down. And then what happens is you hit the baseline, and that momentum carries you through, okay? The red man sort of uses up his reserves of, like, you know, food and everything and energy, and he carries you through and then goes down to the bottom of the baseline. But the thing is, same thing happens in reverse, equal and opposite, remember? And so you go down below, but then you feel so much pain. You know, it's like you're, you know, you're starting to go down below, And as you just pass through the baseline, you start to feel pain, but it's not really enough to build up to get you to take action. And the red man's still got a lot of his own like pain sort of reserves and food reserves built up, so you carry on going down. But then it gets to a point where you're being fed way more than the red man, and the red man's pain is being burnt down because the red man's now sort of happy with the progress. What I said about you being equal and everything, the red man's now happy with how low he's got you below the baseline. But now you're in so much pain. You've been a bitch. You just watched porn last night, and you wake up and you're like, shit, I ain't done any work for like 3 days, bro. My sleep's all fucked, I need to get my act together. And so you do, and that gives you pain, and that gives you food, and gives you energy and motivation to then go and start working. You start coming back up, and as you're coming back up, you're still below the baseline, and so you're still like feeling like you've done really shit, but now you're actually taking action, okay? And now what's happening is the red man is still not being fed because you're still below the baseline, but then you pass over the baseline, and you start going back up, and you carry your own momentum, your own food, energy reserves back up, and you hit the peak, the red man gets fed, you stop being fed, and then you get complacent again, you start going back down, okay? That is essentially why you bounce up and down, okay? It's not because, oh, I'm good, and then I'm a bitch, and then I'm good. It's basically because it's like, the higher up you are, the less you get fed, and the more the red man gets fed, so you get pushed back down, and when you get pushed back down, the red man gets starved, essentially, he gets fed less, and then you get fed more, so you go back up. And it's an oscillation, and this is basically like a waveform, okay? And this happens everywhere in reality, bro. It's like, ocean waves and everything, they're caused by a very similar phenomenon. You have waves everywhere, like, our particles technically move in waves and everything. It's a very similar phenomenon. It's like they've got an average point for where they should be going, but nothing ever actually bounces around the average. Nothing ever actually stays on the average. It always like bounces around the average, basically. And basically, like, the way you can sort of see this is almost like it's equilibrium in a way, if that makes sense. Like, if you've got a boat, okay, on the sea, on the ocean, okay, you can imagine it this way. If you pull the boat up into the air, well, then gravity's going to pull the boat down. It's going to whack back, bash into the sea. It probably goes a good bit below the surface, but then it starts to float back up. And then, as it floats back up, it'll like pop up and then go back down, and it'll sort of like bounce around until it's generally sitting sort of bounces around like that, if that makes sense. It sort of stabilizes. Same thing, if you push the boat down below the surface, it'll go like whoop, push, come back up, and then it'll like pop above the surface a bit, and then it'll like bounce around, And what happens is, when it's sitting on the surface still, that's like what's called equilibrium, okay? Basically, the gravity pulling it down is equal to the buoyant force pushing it up. If you can understand that, it's like they hit equilibrium. When the boat's in the air, gravity's way stronger and the buoyancy isn't there at all, and so it goes down. But then it goes down below the surface a little bit, and all of a sudden buoyancy is way strong because it's below the surface, and so gravity's still just as strong, but then the buoyancy's stronger when it bounces. You understand that, or it's like for example, a car hitting the maximum speed limit that the car can visit, on a drag race, the car hitting the maximum speed limit. What happens is the car starts and it's speeding up, and the engine's running at 100%, and so the car speeds up. But then let's say it hits like 200 miles an hour. As the car speeds up towards 200 miles an hour, the air resistance increases, okay? And so what happens is the car speeds up, but the faster it goes, the harder it is to keep on going faster because the air resistance increases until it gets to a point where the air resistance becomes equal to the power output of the car, okay? And what happens then is the car basically stops accelerating. It's still moving, but it just stops accelerating, okay? And it stops going faster. Because that's basically, let's say it goes faster than, let's say it goes for 201 miles an hour, well, then the air resistance is stronger than the engine of the car. And so then that pushes it back down, then the car goes to 199 miles an hour, and then the engine's stronger than the air resistance, and so the car goes up to 201, and it sort of bounces around that. It's never anything. Nothing is ever just like still like that. It's always, even at the smaller scales, it's always like going up and down like that. It's like a thermostat in a house, for example. Okay, like a thermostat is like what basically measures the temperature in a house and decides whether the heating or the aircon should come on. All right. So let's say you're in a house, and the temperature, the average might be 18, but let's say it drops down to 16. Then what happens is it drops down to 16, the thermostat notices it's gone too low, and so then what happens is it puts the heating on. The heating heats the house up, and it goes past 18, it goes up to 20. But then it's like shit, the house is now 20 degrees, and then it turns the heating off, turns the aircon on, and it brings it back down, but then it doesn't go down to 18, it goes back down to 16, and it keeps bouncing between that. Obviously, it'll be much more like, percentages of a degree in real life. I'm just, I'm not going to fucking, it goes up to, 18.213. I'm not going to fucking do that, bro. I'm going to make, exaggerate it to make it clearer. But you understand the oscillation. That is just a pattern of nature that is absolutely everywhere. Same thing with your mind and your progress and you versus the red man. So, how the hell do you fight off the red man then? Surely if you just make progress and the red man gets stronger, then you come back down. Like, that's what you've probably been experiencing, isn't it? You know, you make progress and you come straight back down. Like, how the hell are you supposed to make progress, Sam, if the red man just gets stronger? Well, the answer is in sort of like the baseline, okay? You know, you can kind of imagine, like, what I said about the boat in the ocean and everything, you know? Imagine the boat one goes higher. Well, how does the boat go higher? You know, well, if the baseline is the sea, like the ocean level, the water level, then how does the boat go higher? Well, you increase the water level. And you might be like, what the fuck, Sam? How do you do that? Now, here's the thing. Okay. You think about it. When you are, like, way, way below your baseline, and you're, like, way down there, and you're in the fucking depths of, like, shit, man, what have I been doing? I've fucked up where I am, like, way below where I should be. What do? Well, guess what? You are fed a fuckdom. You're given a ton of motivation. It's not nice, it's painful, but you're given a ton of motivation. It's not necessarily painful, but you're given a ton of motivation. And then what happens is the red man isn't fed at all, and so you start going up, like, you know, way, way up, okay? And you're basically, you're way stronger than the red man, and that's when you get that drastic, spike going, like, straight up like that, okay? That's when you're working the hardest. Now, the thing is, to make crazy progress, we need to be in that state constantly. Can you see where I'm going with this? And so that state of you being below your baseline, okay, is when you always work the hardest. Now, here's the thing, okay. The best way to make progress and actually make real progress and go upwards, it isn't to push harder, it isn't to try and work harder, it isn't to change your business model, although that is one thing, but we're not going to go over that. The best way is simply just to increase the water level. You increase your baseline. That ship in the ocean, okay, if it wants to go 10 meters higher, the best way to do that is suddenly increase the water level by 10 meters. Imagine you just increase the water level by just 10 meters like that, but the boat doesn't change just yet. The boat is now 10 meters underwater. Well, think about that analogy where you fucking drop the boat and it bounces around. What happens when the boat is 10 meters underwater? Well, the boat just goes whoop, straight up, bro, you know? Because the boat is so much more buoyant. It's so much more buoyant. The buoyancy is way stronger than gravity. And so what happens is the boat just goes straight whoop, straight up. And then if you want to make more progress, you move the water level even higher and you just go whoop, just straight like that. Because you think about it, when you are way below your baseline, you will just put all the fucking work in and you will get there. And so basically, the way to increase your baseline is the way to serve the red man is to increase your baseline. Because by increasing your baseline, he no longer has food. You have all the food in the world, okay? And so then that essentially starves him, all right? And through that, you just put all the fucking work in, bro. You don't even need to think about motivation. Sam, how do I increase my baseline? Now. We are getting on to the title of the video and the whole hook of this video and the real true value of this video, because me living at home with my parents is me fucking abusing this little baseline hack, okay? However, before we get into what I'm currently doing, I've actually decided I want to tell you a story about how I've used this in the past for myself. And I think I'll also tell you a story, I'll tell you a story about my clothes and my sales rep as well. And this happening with him. So, basically, in maybe April, it would have been April. So, for context, just to give you a little history of Samuel Walford, in about, how far back do I go with this? Basically, last summer, a year ago, dropped out, did a load of traveling. I was only making like 2K per month. Some months I was just traveling basically the entire month, or I was being like creative with my filmmaking and didn't make like August, I think. Last year I didn't make a single penny, just because I wasn't really like trying to make money, to be honest. But when I was at like 2K, 3K per month. And then basically the first, and that was all through the autumn too. But then in November was when I actually fully locked in on business. And in November, how much did I actually make in November? Was it? No, I think it might have been 8K. No, sorry, it was December. It was literally the very, very start of December. I had like this big business blow up. In like the start of December, I made like 8K then. And then like January, I made like 12K. And then you don't really need to know that. I was just sort of going back too far back because I'm a little bit, I'm narcissistic and I like to talk about myself. But basically, I did like 8K in like January and like 8K in December, 12K in January. Did like a 20K launch basically for this like program. And with that 20K, it's like I had, solid money. I didn't have any real expenses. I was paying like $2,000 a month for some mentorship, but that wasn't really much. And I didn't really have any other I hadn't hired anyone at that point, so I didn't have any expenses at all, really. Just a few, it was like £350 a month of like subscriptions or something like that, man. And, which is nothing compared to now. Like I'm spending 5.5K a month now on shit, bro. But basically then, what it was that, what was it? Where am I going with this? I've just completely lost my whole mental train, just dipped. Yeah, so pretty much after I did that 20k launch, it was like February and March. I just went all fucking down on delivery. Like I launched this program without actually building the program. It was like a pre-sale, and so it was like shit. It's time to build a program. It's time to get people some crazy results. And so that's what I did, and I started building the program. And my favorite work by far is making YouTube videos and especially making course videos, which is kind of why my YouTube videos are so long, because I always like making them like course videos. Although my YouTube coach, she tells me that I need to make shorter videos because apparently it's value density matters, but I'm kind of going against the grain with that one. But basically, I fucking love delivery, bro. I love it. My favorite work task of all of them. Like when I sit down for a day and it's time to make some training or record some training or like make some YouTube videos, I'm just in flow state the entire day, and it feels so productive and it's so fucking awesome, man. And the thing is, at that time in like February, I had loads of money saved up and everything, and so it was like shit, bro. For the next while, I can just go all in on delivery, get some crazy fucking results, and then with those crazy results, it's like I'm just gonna make even more money. And so what happens is all of February, I'm just all in on making the program. Almost the entirety of March, until like near the end of March, basically. At the end of March, I kind of took a little bit of a break away from business. I went to like Scotland for a week, and I went on like creative mode and like started writing a novel and shit, which was interesting and everything. I just went in basically creative mode and like basically got away from business for like a week, which I could do. I like had money saved up and shit. I don't know, I had maybe like 8,000, 9,000 pounds still saved up there, which is like what? Add like a quarter to that, which would be like, what, $13,000 maybe, I think. Yeah, like 13k, I think, saved up, which is, still a decent amount saved up. So I was like, I was chill, I was happy. And then the thing is, I remember telling my friend, like, after I come back from Scotland, I'm going to like relaunch my program. This program, which is like the average member in it, I made $3,700 in just those 2 months. Like there was 20 guys in there. And the average guy in there made $3,700 in deals, and it was like 2,000 already cash collected in just those first 2 months, which is fucking ridiculous, bro. Because these guys are just like normal, average, retarded, dare I say that word on YouTube, like self-improvement guys. That's another thing. I need to stop swearing so much in my videos, man, because some of my videos are now getting age restricted and shit, and I'm 17, so I don't know how I'm making content that's only 18 plus, but it is what it is. But anyway, what I'm getting at is I just got crazy results, and I was like, shit, I've got them crazy results. The program's already built. Like, delivery's kind of done. I've got my sales process in check. It's all fucking great. Like, delivery's solid, sales is solid, and I've just, like, for the past 2 months, I haven't sold them. So all that traffic is, like, built up pretty much. And I was like, shit is going great. I was so happy with that. And so the thing is, I launched again, and here I was running on a lot of, like, positive emotions. I didn't really have a ton of pain in my life. And I was running on, like, a lot of positive emotions and shit, which, it didn't give me a ton of motivation, but the thing was, like, I was still used to working at that point, and so it was like, it wasn't really that much of a problem. I was doing the work, like, the red man wasn't controlling me. My, like, red man, I kind of had him in check, kind of through the positive, because my positive emotions were, like, so strong, bro. And then I come to do this, like, this launch in April, and I'm planning on doing, like, 30k. I tell my friend I'm going to do, like, 30k this April launch and everything, and it's going to be fucking awesome, man. And I started doing it. And about 6,000, it was like $6,000, $7,000 in. I just kind of hit a roadblock and like slow down. And I finished April on like just under $7,000 cash collected, but it was like, I don't know, maybe like $12,000 in deals, I think. So it's technically 12,000, but it's only like 7k collected. And I was aiming for like 30k collected. And so I was like, shit, bro. Like, and by the way, if you want to know the reason for that, it's basically just because I stopped doing anything for new traffic for those entire 2 months. And so I was kind of coming back to like trying to sell to people, and the only people I could sell to were the people I couldn't sell to for the original launch. And so there was like very few people who I could basically sell. There was no like fresh meat, no fresh leads, despite having such crazy delivery and service, and sales process. And so that put me into like a bit of a mode where I was like, shit, bro, like, I've got no way to get new traffic, because before I was basically relying on like traffic from like school that was giving me, but like I couldn't really do anything to get more of that. And so I was like, fuck, bro, I need to like actually get something where I can get given traffic. And I was like, okay, I've got some money saved up. I need to find some new ways of doing it. The first way when I got from like 2k to 10k, the way I did that is by investing in some mentorship, which got me the conversion process, which got me from 2k to 10k. So like, what if I'm going from like, 10k, I was technically only like 7k for this month, and I want to get this consistent traffic source so that I can use my consistent sales process and delivery, and actually have that work. I need people to come in, and so I need a consistent traffic source, which I didn't have. I wasn't really doing. I had YouTube, but I wasn't really doing it consistently. Wasn't really getting too many people from that. School was still sort of getting, like, school, the community platform was still giving me some people, but it wasn't a ton. Like, it wasn't enough to make like 10K or like 30K a month or anything. And so I was like, I need to invest into mentorship. And so guess what I do? I go and invest into mentorship and everything. And instantly, because it's quite expensive mentorship, I won't lie, I invested into it, and it's a big investment, and it's a lot of money. And instantly, for me to do the traffic source, which they're sort of teaching me, which is outreach I'm getting at now, for me to basically get that to work, I need to invest a lot of money. And at the same time, it's like they're also like, oh yeah, start YouTube as well. Well, for YouTube, I need like an editor, so I'm paying like my editor like probably 1K a month at the moment. I need a thumbnail guy. Just for the, that's just the YouTube. I need to like buy some lighting and like invest in some more camera gear and shit, which isn't necessary to start with YouTube, but at my level, is like, I enjoy YouTube, so I just do it because I want to. Which doesn't really back up my point, but anyway. And then, with the outreach and everything, it's like, well, I need to pay like $500 a month for the fucking that shit. I need to buy all the accounts to do the outreach with. There's loads of other fucking shit I need to like buy, like fucking proxy servers and shit to host that. And it's like this, I have to put a lot of money into this shit, bro. And at the same time, it's like I'm paying my closer, and he's also doing like sales reviews and shit, and as part of delivery. So I've still got expenses basically, and then my expenses go up to like 5.5K a month. And then I'm like, shit, bro, 5.5K per month, and it's like I'm barely breaking even on that, where I'm currently at. And so I lock the fuck in, because all of a sudden I'm in a ton of pain. Okay, and I absolutely lock the fuck in. And I do the work, and then that basically gets me to doing $25,000 in deals in May. Partially down to the new traffic, but also to the fact that I was now locked in on actually, figuring it out. Because I was like, shit, bro, with all these expenses, like, I need to make this work. I can't be lazy with it. And so I'm not lazy with it, and it works. Ironically enough, the Instagram, like, the outreach on Instagram just hasn't worked whatsoever. I think partially due to I haven't worked for it. But also, like, there's been so many problems and shit with it, which I'm not going to get into here. But basically, the way I've been getting these results is through YouTube. Which is kind of mad, like, for the amount of money I'm now making with YouTube, for the amount of views I'm getting, it is kind of ridiculous, bro, and it's like, what the fuck? But, like, producing valuable content, that's what it does. It's fucking awesome, but the only downside to that is, like, YouTube, it's like, you can't rely on it, so I have to get other shit anyway. But anyway. Basically, that is kind of what happened, and so what I was coming back to here, okay, is that by me now suddenly having pain, that forced me to lock in, and that basically scaled up my business. The other thing I did, which is very, very valuable, to sort of raise my baseline, because that firstly raised my baseline, because all of a sudden, instead of starting it each month at like, only $350 below, or like 450, whatever, like £350 below, I'm now starting each month at like 5,500 below. And so instantly my baseline is just so much higher, which forces me to, like, instead of like making $350 and being at zero, and I'm now making 5,500 and being at zero. Okay. And obviously shit's also exponential, and so it's like making 5,500 then makes it a lot easier to go and make 10,000 or like 20 or 25,000. By the way, that 25K is in deals. That's not cash collected, unfortunately. But basically what I'm getting at is by doing that raised my baseline so much. The shit fucking, the ship, not shit. YouTube, don't demonetize and age restrict me, please. That basically raised the boat a fuck ton, and that got me to lock in, and that's sort of what allowed me to scale. The other thing is, Evan is calling me. This is my closer. Bro, I'm recording a video, man.
Okay.
What, is it important?
Not really.
Alright. You got a sales call at 3:30. Yeah, apparently he's in Calcutta, but he seems very upgraded, so...
oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. No, as I was saying, the other thing, Sugar, by the way, you can leave a decent part of that in there, bro. Like, you can leave the Calcutta upgrader thing. I'm trying to make this like an authentic video. Heck, maybe even leave me telling you to leave that in. Leave all of it in. Don't cut anything out. Apart from like where I'm walking to the camera, I guess. But anyway, I'm getting onto random shit here. Basically, what happened was I increased my baseline. I locked the fuck in. The tide rises, the ship rises with it. The other thing I did, though, I was getting at, is basically I just started being around people and just like seeing it as normal to like make 30K per month. So if it's like basically in this like mentorship program, and there's other people there, and it's like I see shit. There's guys who are like 19 who are doing like 30K per month. They're in a different niche and a different industry to me, but it's like still, it's like, bro, I'm 2 years younger than you. and you're making like 3 times what I'm making. Like, that isn't right. I need to, you know, and you kind of see like, heck, the people who are making loads of money, they're just normal people who just did business right. You know, in the sense that like you might have a solid physique. I've just got a solid business. You know, like my physique isn't. I mean, I'm kind of lying down here, so it's not the most flattering position. But you know, my physique isn't great. You know, it's acceptable, I guess. But I focused, you know, entirely in on business. And so you kind of realize, like, shit, you know, the people who are doing good in business, they're just normal people who just got good at business, you know? And it's like, yes, and this is kind of me flattering myself here. Yes, it's like they're going to be generally more intelligent and they're going to be more, you know, they're going to understand shit better and they're going to have better skills in that sense. Like, I feel like business is just is an extension of self-improvement as a whole. I think that's very widely known. Whereas I feel like fitness is just a sort of still a part of self-improvement. Again, that might be me flattering myself. And trying to make my achievements feel bigger and more relevant compared to a guy who's got a really good physique. But basically what I'm getting at here is that by being around other people who are doing crazy numbers and realizing, shit, he's just a normal person who's just done business, it basically makes you see that, like, why am I not there yet? You know? And it kind of makes it like almost like a normal thing to be making like 30k per month. Like, I think like 30k per month, and it's like, well, that's not really that much. And it's like, you know, 100k per month. You do, like, for example, you do the maths and like 100k per month, and you're like, shit, it's like, if my average video was getting like 3,000 views, I would probably be at 100k per month, very realistically. And that's not even like an overstatement. That's like looking at really pessimistic figures. You know, with good figures, I could literally 1,000, you know, 1,500 views per video be at 100k per month. And you're like, shit, bro, what the actual fuck, man? That's just stupid, you know? And it kind of makes you think, like, bro, I'm just like, you know, I need to be there. And it kind of raises your baseline a lot and puts you in that pain to then basically get you higher, all right? Basically, what I'm coming at here is, like, pain is not a bad thing. Like, a lot of people have this, like, preconception that pain has, you know, is a bad thing, and that, like, the work has to, you know, you have to enjoy your work. You have to, you know, enjoy your business work, or else you're going to be sad and miserable your whole life. I used to believe that for a long time, like, honestly. I think I've had a very big mindset shift with this, which has really, really helped me a lot, and I really hope you can see this too. That pain isn't, like, inherently a bad thing. Pain is just equal and opposite to pleasure. 50% of your life is always going to be below the median. Just take that on board. 50% of your life is always going to be below the median. Okay? Pain is not a bad thing. It's like man and woman. You know, red man and fuck off, like. Red man and I was about to say white man. Red man and angel. Okay. It's like they're just equal and opposite. One isn't inherently good or bad. They're just equal and opposite. And so the same with pain and pleasure. If there was no pain, then pleasure wouldn't be this crazy, like, good thing that you always want. It'd just be the normal. And then it'd just be average, you know? You think about that? And so pain is not a bad thing. Now, there's two types of pain, which I've kind of discovered. There is the pain of regret, which is a bad pain. That's when you watch porn and you wake up the next morning and you're like, fuck, bro, I just stayed up to like 3 a.m. and I've just absolutely fried my brain, and now I'm absolutely fucked, and even though I want to work, I can't work because my brain's fucked. Don't use me saying that as an excuse for not working after, you know, fucking up last night. Because you definitely can. But anyway, I'm getting off track here. There's the pain of regret, which is bad pain. You probably understand that. That's when you fucked up and you're like, shit, I've done badly. That is basically like the good side of your brain causing you pain, if that makes sense. If you see that. But then there's also like the pain of like resistance as well. Where it's like, that's kind of like where you're kind of like fighting the red man in a way. And so what I'm saying is like when you're below the baseline, that's like the kind of pain of regret you're at there. You know, pain of like, shit, I've been fucking up. But then there's also like the pain of progress, which is like when you're pushing really hard in the gym and your muscles hurt. That pain isn't necessarily bad. Like, and it isn't bad. That pain can often feel good. Like, you know, you probably hear people say it's like, oh, I'm a fucking masochist in the gym, bro. I love pain in the gym. Where does the word masochism come from? It's not like fucking Latin or Romance, because that'd be like to do with doll. Anyway, I'm getting fucking ahead of myself here. I'm getting onto fucking linguistics there. You're probably so bored of me yapping. But basically, there's two types of pain. Pain of regret, that's bad, don't want that. Then there's the pain of progress, which is like the opposite, you know, equal and opposite pain if we really want to put everything into a duality. And that's good pain. That's the pain where you're like fighting off the red man, you're fighting off the resistance and everything. And that pain isn't inherently bad. If you get used to that pain, then it can often actually feel good. Like, you think about it, you often like feel better when you're doing the work and pushing through, like in the gym, for example. You know, you're on a hard run. Like, for example, I ran a half marathon like 2 weeks ago, fully fasted. And it was at like 4 p.m. I started running it, so I was like really fully fasted, no blood sugar whatsoever. And I ran it, and I ran a PB fasted. To be fair, I've only ran like 3 half marathons in the past like year probably, or like 6 months. So it's not really that hard to get a PB. But bro, after I finished, I had to literally call my dad to come and pick me up because I could barely walk. Like I was like, trying to throw up, but I couldn't throw up, and I was like, absolutely fucked. And like when I was cooking, like later that evening before I'd eaten, because I came home, I literally laid down for like a fucking hour, like absolutely exhausted. I just like went to sleep for an hour at like 6 p.m. bro. Just went for sleep for an hour and then like woke up, and then like I had a shower and I could barely stand, bro. Like I just had like nothing in me. My legs were just aching. Like it's not like the soreness after the unit. It's just like a whole dull ache in them. It's horrible. And then it's like I went downstairs to start cooking so I could have my food and like get my blood sugar back up. And like I remember like halfway through cooking, all of a sudden I was just like about to fucking throw up. I was like so hot. I fucking like took my fucking shirt and shorts off and everything, bro. I was just like so hot, about to throw up, and like, I was just sitting next to the toilet there while my fucking like meat is overcooking. You can't really overcook. You can't oversear steak, and it's a thick steak, so it wasn't gonna cook too much. So it was fine. But I was just sitting there for like 5 minutes, feeling like I was about to throw up, and then I went back to normal. But I kind of realized like me sitting there, or me, sitting on the side of the road waiting for my dad to pick me up. I was in pain there, or even just like running the last 5K, like running the last 5K in like 23 minutes. I think I did it in. Which is like my 5K PB is like 20 minutes and 2 seconds, so it was like decently fast 5K for me, and like the pain you go through there, it's good pain. When you're in the gym and you're pushing hard, it's good pain. And like if I could choose like one moment to be frozen in time for like eternity, I would probably choose that moment where I'm like sprinting at full fucking pace at the very end of that half marathon. Or sitting on the side of the road, or sitting next to the toilet about to throw up, because it's like it's the pain of achievement. The pain I'm going through now is me fucking pushing my body, bro, and that's good. Or like me recording a video and it's hard, or recording a course and it's hard. That's good pain. That is the pain of progress. That isn't the pain of regret. The pain of regret pushes you, and the pain of regret pushes you and gives you food to basically motivate you. The pain of progress. The pain of progress kind of like uses up that food, if you can sort of see it like that, is what I'm getting at. And so basically the point I'm trying to make here is like, you need pain in your life. You need the pain of progress, but to be able to experience the pain of progress, you need the pain of regret to basically give you the energy to then go and experience the pain of progress. Life's all about pain, bro. It's all about pain. You start to kind of realize that, and you start to realize it's about suffering. There's loads of suffering in life, but then you kind of also realize at the same time, well, shit, that suffering is kind of balanced by insane pleasure, and at the same time, it's also like, nothing's inherently good or bad, and so you can stop seeing the suffering as inherently bad, stop seeing the pain as inherently bad, and then it stops being bad because you just stop seeing it as bad, which is going on into way more shit about beliefs and perspective and everything, but I'm kind of getting ahead of myself there. Basically, coming back to like, then, because that's sort of me building the foundations of everything you need to know for why I'm like still living with my family and everything. It is basically to kind of manipulate my baseline, because right now, if I really wanted to, I could probably be living. 13 hours. Fuck off. I could probably be. So that's not gonna happen with the YouTube shit, man. Getting age restricted and everything. I could right now, if I wanted to, be living in some like fucking cabin. Maybe not a villa. I haven't got enough money for a villa on the Côte d'Azur yet, like south of France. But I could be living in some cabin down there, or out in the fucking mountains, or just go somewhere nice with nice weather, and just work there full time, or I could go down to fucking like Montenegro or Albania. Like I'm going to be going to Albania with a load of my clients this summer, like living there with a load of them in like a penthouse in Tirana, the capital of Albania. It's going to be fucking awesome, man. It was like I could go and like move out if I wanted to, and the thing is, if I did that, I would be able to focus better, because like I'm waking up at like 4:30 a.m. every morning now, because it's like light enough to do that. It's like light. Sunrise is like 4:30 at the moment in the UK, where it's right near the solstice, so it's like it gets light really early, which is lovely. And so I'm waking up at like 4:30, and I'm like getting my work done and shit. And so then I'm home alone the whole day. But then like in the evenings, for example, I'm like, my family's loud, and it's like I'm trying to go to sleep and like they're loud, and it's like I have to put my fucking like AirPods in with brown noise and shit, and that kind of like disturbs my sleep a good amount. And it's like I've started now cooking like before 3:30 p.m. or I'll start cooking at like 3 p.m. because then my brother and sister will get home from school at like 3:30 p.m. and so I always cook before that. And it sounds horrible, but just so I don't have to see them, and I don't have to have that distraction. And this all sounds so horrible, man, because I live with my family. This is their house. It is not by any means like their fault that like they're being loud at like 8 p.m. It's my fault for going to bed that early, and that's kind of like getting to why I'm still here and I haven't like moved out or anything yet. Is basically because, like, like I said, I can't focus as well here, and that's kind of like a reason why I'm staying here, because I can't focus as well here. Because what happens is, like, I could move out right now and I could be living somewhere nice and focusing better, sure, or I could use the thought of moving out, as this kind of like goal in a way, where it's like, well, I need, like £16,000, like $20,000 saved up before I can do that, and I need to have this thing in my business automated and this thing working, and I need to get this system set up, which is like, hard things I'm gonna do, and I've got to do this, and then once I've done that and I've achieved that, that's when I can then go and move out. And it's kind of like, it's in a weird way, it's like I've played it into my mind that I like hate living here, bro. And it's like, we're well off. We've got a nice house. I've got my own big bedroom and everything. I pay for my own food, but I've got plenty of food. I can cook fine. I've got like an outdoor cooking thing here, so I can like absolutely blast my steak and get smoke everywhere. I'm home alone all day, so I don't have disturbances from people or anything. Same thing in the morning. I don't have any disturbances from anyone. It's only really even in the evenings. So it is actually good living here, but I play it into my mind that it's not, and I will like make myself. I'll let myself get pissed off at like any small thing that's like from my family, if that makes sense. And the thing is, I do this in like almost a controlled manner, where it's like I don't get angry at them. I don't like show my anger by any means whatsoever to them. Because I still know that it's like, it's kind of like my fault, not their fault, because this is their house. This is like, the family house, which, I've grown up in, we've all lived here and everything. And so it's kind of like, I shouldn't expect them to be quiet when I'm going to bed at like 7 p.m. or anything. I shouldn't expect them to like, leave the kitchen tidy after the morning or some shit because, I don't like the clutter. Like, I shouldn't expect that. But I kind of like, I play it into myself that I do, and I kind of get, I let myself get pissed off that, and I don't try and control it. I can hear my mum, coughing downstairs, or like I can hear my brother like blasting out like his brain rot on the TV, like just down the hall or anything like that, and it's like, oh, you can hear it in my video, and it's like I let that get to me. I don't show it. I'm good at controlling. I think I can get angry, but I think I've got very good at controlling my anger, because I kind of realize I kind of get embarrassed when I show my anger in a way. And so it's like, I think I've just naturally got very good at controlling my anger, when I get angry. And so it's like, I don't show it at all, obviously. I'm not gonna like hurt my family like that, if that makes sense. But I let this sort of like pain of like getting pissed off hit me. And then I'm like, shit, like I need to move out, bro. Hang on, I can't move out until I've got this amount of money saved up. So it's like, I've got like security. And then I've also got like these systems and everything. Fuck off, fly. I've got to stop swearing, man. And so I've got these like systems set up, and I need to do this before I can move out. And then that basically puts my baseline way higher. Whereas what I could be doing right now is I could be going out and moving somewhere nice and sort of enjoying that. But then with that, I wouldn't kind of have this pain of living with my family, and so I'm kind of like artificially introducing this pain of regret, increasing my baseline, causes me to work harder. I get to like 30k per month cash collected. Let's say, I move out. And then it also, if it just feels like more like rewarded, if that makes sense. Like, I remember when I went to Scotland and everything, like, I kind of like I remember at the start, and this didn't end up really happening, to be fair, but I kind of played it into my own head, that like, I wasn't going to enjoy the trip because it's like, I hadn't like had any big win before it, if that makes sense. Like, I built the program, but that was like a couple of weeks ago. I finished that, and so it felt like I hadn't really done anything for like the past week or whatever, or 2 weeks, and I was like, I'm just going to go to Scotland, it's going to be like overindulgence in a way. Didn't end up being like that, I think, just because the power of like traveling is way more, enchanting than anything, but it's the same thing of moving out. It's like, when I do it, it's going to be a big thing, it's going to be a reward for me, like moving out or like traveling for some. When I say moving out, it's like, I'm not going to go, like, I'm probably not going to go rent out a place long time. It's more going to be like, stay here for a month, then go here for 2 months, then go here for a month, and kind of like, move around a lot with just a backpack and probably a suitcase as well, because it's not going to be like super adventurous. But anyway, that's basically why I'm still living with my family. What else have I wrote down to sort of speak about? Yeah, okay, the reversal of this. Do not confuse this with basically wanting to achieve your goals later, if that makes sense. So I could confuse, if I did this wrong, I could basically confuse this with of like, how do I put it? It's like, I'm not going to move out yet because that's the thing for like future me, if that makes sense. Like that, and that's a goal I'm going to achieve in the future. Like, you don't want to kind of confuse this of like, increasing your baseline and like how do I put it, like holding back on doing things that can help you. You don't want to do that and use that as cope to like not do the work and like not take opportunities. So for example, what you could do is be like, someone offers you mentorship and it could help you, but then you're like, I'm not going to join that mentorship because I'm going to use that not having the mentorship yet as pain to kind of make me work harder. That's just stupid. Like, it doesn't work like that. And like, I know that I focus worse here than if I was moved out, but the reward of like the pain I get from being here actually probably makes me lock in harder, if that makes sense. Like, there's focus and then there's like input to work, and it's also not only that, like I'm putting in more work input but then focusing worse. It's because you can see like focus is almost like a multiplier of the work you put in. And so I'm decreasing my multiplier, but then significantly increasing my input. But it's also that I'm training myself that I can sit through pain like this and I can push through pain like this as well. Like sort of conditioning my mind. But I don't want you to sort of confuse this and like make yourself undergo unnecessary pain. Like, you're not gonna go and fucking put your hand on a hot like significantly overheating your fingertips so it's really painful to type and be like, oh, I'm pushing through the pain. No, that's just stupid. Like, please have some common sense. I swear to God, like me saying that's gonna get this video age restricted. In fact, Hugo, what I just said about like overheating your fingertips, please cut that out. Like, don't have me saying anything about doing that. I'll instead like say I'll instead say the words now, and I want you to, the words I now say, I want you to interject that instead of me saying like overheating your fingertips, if that makes sense. But anyway, as I was saying, like, do not confuse this with undergoing unnecessary discomfort. Do not confuse this with overheating your fingertips. For example, or like for example, turning your neck 180 degrees like an owl or something like that. Imagine turning your neck 180 degrees like an owl, and you do that very fast. Like, just don't do that. Don't undergo necessary pain like that. That's just kind of stupid. Like, you wanna keep in mind your long-term progress and don't use this as cope. Is kind of what I'm getting at. But yeah, so in terms of like how you can actually use this in your life, the best way to do it is to basically get a fire into your ass. And kind of like, put yourself in a position where you kind of need to make money. The best way to do this is by investing in mentorship, investing in a program which is going to help you to make more money with your business, and then also put you under financial strain. That's what I did. Really, really helps. That's like the best way to do it. I think the best sort of cheat to be able to do that. The other way is just to like, for example, like I like to watch films, and I've got a projector, like a movie projector in my room and everything. And it's like I'll watch films on that, huge, like basically my entire fucking, like one of my biggest walls, or like my biggest wall like, on my room, like the widest wall. It like takes up the entirety of that wall. I've got a whole wall blank just for the projector. And it's just great watching films like that. I just stopped doing that. I just took the projector away and just unplugged, like, untangled all the wires. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna watch any films until I'm making 30k per month, and I've got money saved up and I've moved out. I'm not gonna watch another film at home until I've already moved out and gone traveling. Just like that. And all of a sudden, like, that comfort is just gone. And now it's like, I want to watch shit. I can't. The only thing I can watch is like educational content and reading books and stuff. That's way less fun than watching films. I can no longer have that happiness. For example, I no longer play like football with my brother out in the garden, or like play FIFA with him, or if I do, it's very, very rarely. Because I enjoy doing that. But I'm now like, well, shit, I can't do that, and I'm not going to be happy with myself enjoying that. I'm not going to be able to enjoy it until I'm making like 30k per month. And so it's kind of like I'm forcing myself to lock in, because it's like I can't enjoy this shit. And like, it's the red man's going to like put you through some resistance and shit and convince you to do that. And for example, yesterday I was really tired. I ended up watching like a Veritasium video on like numerology and like prime numbers and shit yesterday. Just because I was like tired and I didn't have the willpower to only watch like some boring educational course video. And so like people still do break down a bit. You don't want to use that as an excuse though. But like in general now, like I haven't watched any content for like the past 2 weeks other than that one video I did yesterday. And so it's basically like forcing yourself to kind of lock in, putting that fire under your ass. In a sense. Now, my average client, like I told you, makes $3,700 in the first 60 days of working with me. So if you are a self-improvement creator, and you want to make your first 2k per month, I'm not pitching you anything here, or I will do in a second, but I'm not pitching you anything for now. I'm offering you my entire course for completely and utterly free. Okay, my unique method of getting people to 2K per month is basically by decreasing the scalability and massively increasing the leverage of the tasks we do. So you can essentially, you know how YouTube's like so inconsistent, you put more work in, you don't really get more results out. We basically just get rid of that and make it so that you can put more work in and directly get more results out, very linear. And so you can just like lock in and grind and actually hit 2K per month without like worrying if it's going to work or not. And that whole methodology I teach for completely free in my course, and there's a link for that in the description. It's on School. It's completely and utterly free. There's no fucking like credit card free trial shit like that. Completely free, you can get that. However, if you are interested in working with me, we do have a fucking crazy pay on results offer to get you to your first 2K per month even faster. And there's a link to a video explaining that down in the description there, where you can book a call with me potentially as well if you'd be interested in that. Absolutely no pressure. If you're not interested in that, I completely understand, bro, but it's just down there if you want that. Also, you might never see one of my videos again, so I would really appreciate it if you subscribe, because that would help me and also help you too, because you see more of my videos. But other than that, have an amazing day, bro. I hope this video can change your life, and bye-bye.